What's up, Epic 7? I know I'm a little bit behind with this, but hey, I was on vacation. Cut me some slack. We're in the middle of our Moonlight 5 Headhunt event, and people are asking me for help. What do I pick? Who's a good unit? Who should I get? Well, let me start out by saying this. Don't let me or any other content creator talk you out of getting the unit of your dreams. You pick your husbando or your waifu and you never look back. If there's a unit that you've always wanted and it kills you to not have that unit on your account in your lobby looking at you every single day, then you pick up that unit. It's a game. Do what makes you happy. Do what's fun. Pick up the unit you've always wanted. But if you're here to find out who's going to help you achieve in this game, who's going to help you min-max your experience, what unit is going to be the most valuable to you in the game, then I'm going to try to help guide you through that. Now, it's a little bit tough because I don't know your account. The needs of a year 1 player are different than the needs of a year 5 player. The needs of a whale are different than the needs of a free-to-play. You might have very specific needs based on the other units on your account and unit synergy, but I'm going to try to go over this and discuss each unit's strengths and weaknesses and where I place them in the current meta and help guide your decision. Always temper what I say with the needs of your account. I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to advise you in a direction to help steer you onto course so that you can make the best possible decision in what is likely the most difficult decision you're going to make in Epic 7 this year. Who's going to be your ML5 Headhunt unit? So I've divided my tier list up into 4 principal tiers, because I think more than that just bogs it down, right? You just want to know who's hot and who's not. You don't really need 10 billion tiers. So we're going to start out with our must-have tier. This is, well, units that you really, really want on your account. These are the meta. These are the top game-shattering units that if you don't have these units, it's just hard to play and compete on equal footing with everyone else. And then we'll have our solid use tier. The solid use tier is just very good, strong units. They're not quite the top of the meta. They don't quite qualify up here, but they're very easy to pick. They're very easy to draft. They're very easy to synergize. They have strong kits, and nobody's sad about having these units on their account. And then we've got our niche use tier. And it's just that, right? There's something about these units that makes them a little bit more difficult to play. Maybe they're insanely hard to gear. Maybe they only work in very specific situations. Maybe their entire kit is centered around countering a unit. Maybe they are, if you think like Sigrid, right? Ice Sigrid, right? Best possible unit, top of the S tier for killing wyverns. And she does nothing else in the game. But if you want to kill wyverns, she's the most important unit you can have. If you don't care about killing wyverns, she's useless to you. That's niche. Singular use, or has something about the kit that requires insane gear, insane synergy, specific comps. That's what this tier is all about. I'm not saying anybody in this tier is in any way, shape, or form bad. I'm just saying they're situationally amazing, and outside of those situations, you probably aren't going to use them. And now the need a buff tier. These are units that I'm saying are bad. I mean, these are the dog water units of the ML5. Now, there's going to be some units in here that you're going to think are great. And maybe they are. Maybe they are great, but maybe there are non-ML units that are better. Maybe there are other ML units that power creep them. Maybe they were good, but not so much anymore because the counters for them are very, very strong. It's not that these units won't have a place in the future. It's not that these units can't be used now. It's just that these units either have better options or don't quite have the chops to swim in a 2025 meta of this game. And they probably need a buff to bring them back into the limelight, and those happen. If you've got every unit in the top groups, don't feel bad about picking one from the bottom group. As we have seen, buffs radically change the usability of units. And then, of course, can't get. I'm including this tier so that I can talk a little bit about the new units, because people always ask, hey, how good is Harsetti? Where would she be if she was available? So we'll discuss those as well. But let's jump right in and start with Abyssal Yuffine. Now, Abyssal Yuffine used to be the top unit in the game. She was the meta. But enough counters have come out where she has fallen down a little bit. It's not that she isn't amazing anymore. She is. She is a super, super strong unit, but she's not quite the monstrosity that she used to be. Units like Empyrean Ilynav, really, really high tank units that can just tank her trauma and keep on swinging. She's not quite the insane unit she used to be, but I'm putting her right at the front of the solid use units. She's standalone, she's self-sustaining, she's a little tricky to gear, but once you get her geared, she will be an asset to your team both on offense and defense. I think she is one of the strongest picks you can have out of the non-must-have, non-meta tier. The Great Lord Ainz Ulgon. I'm sorry, people who love Overlord. This guy is throttled by 15%. If his S3 had Ignore ER on it, we could do so many things with him. Right now, he would be in the needs a buff camp easily because he really does need a buff. There's very precious few situations where you can use him. I have seen people actually win some RTA fights with him, but that is it's such an incredibly niche use that I couldn't even put him here. He would be down here, but you don't have to worry about him because you can't get him. He is a collaboration unit, and you cannot select collaboration units from any selector. But now, the man of the hour, Ambitious Tywin. Ambitious Tywin is arguably the best, one of the best units in the game. Might even be considered by some as the best unit in the game. He does it all. In a debuff-centric meta, this guy helps make you resistant to debuffs while dishing out debuffs. He is control and anti-control all rolled into a knight package that can wear Aureus and actually do some damage. Every single time a patch comes out, a new unit comes out, he seems to get stronger. Instead of following the normal pattern of getting weaker when new things come out, he just gets better. If you do not have Ambitious Tywin, you pick this guy up. Now is your time. The only reason to avoid Ambitious Tywin is if you currently have the ML Galaxy coins to buy him. He will be in the Galaxy coin shop here very soon, and I would definitely, if you've got the 40 coins, pick him up out of that Galaxy coin shop. Right now, we're going into Blood Moon Haste, Ambitious Tywin, and Sylvan Sage Vivian. All three of them are worth having. Ambitious Tywin and Blood Moon Haste are top tier. Sylvan Sage Vivian is worth getting with a caveat. You want to be careful about her gearing. She takes very, very good gear to make her effective, and you don't want to spend coins on something you can't build. So make sure you can build Sylvian before you drop coins on her. But Tywin and Haste are both very easy to get, are very easy to build by comparison. So they're worthwhile pickups at any stage of the game for anybody who has designs on competitive play, arena, guild wars, RTA. Get Ambitious Tywin. Now let's talk about Apocalypse Ravi. From the top of the meta, she was dominating. The entire reason Hua Young existed was to deal with Apocalypse Ravi. And fun fact, Hua Young killed every single unit in the game except Apocalypse Ravi. That's right. Apocalypse Ravi was so damn good she could just tank it and keep going. Her value has dropped off quite a bit from top tier to solid tier. Now she's chilling down around the niche use. And the niche use is, I don't own Blood Moon Haste, and I need to have a DPS unit that can raise. Because literally Blood Moon Haste just power crept Apoc Ravi right out of the meta. Now about the only place Apocalypse Ravi has use is you are drafting an RTA, and you're watching that timer tick down, and you're looking at all the units your opponent's picked, and you're stun locked and can't figure out what to do, and the timer's getting all the way like 5 seconds, 4 seconds. Just smash Apoc Ravi. If you're stun locked, you can't figure out who to pick. Apoc Ravi's a safe pick. She self heals, she does damage, she can bring people back from the dead. She's the total package, and she's a good pick when nothing else seems right. But as a emergency, I can't figure out what to do unit, it's harder and harder to play her in today's meta, especially with the amount of injury that's out there. Everything and its brother got thrown at stopping the great disaster that was Apoc Ravi, and it's been pretty successful, and now she's just not as playable as she once was. Arbiter Vildred. From the top of the meta to the bottom of the garbage can, back into the meta again. You can't keep a good Arbiter down. Arbiter Vildred is a powerhouse unit. He is not quite must-have anymore. We're going to slide him down here into the solid use category. He can be used for farming in PvE. He can be used for clearing clearing unrecorded history, eulogy for a saint, clearing story missions. If you have got this unit, make him your friend unit. People get so upset when your friend unit is somebody like Sigrid or Luna. Make Arbiter your friend unit, for crying out loud. If people are borrowing somebody else's friend unit, they want Arbiter Vildred. You don't have to make him your rep hero, but make him your friend unit so that people will actually get benefit out of using this guy. Strong, strong, strong unit in a world where penetration mitigation is out there. A guy that can do insane damage and not have to worry about penetration is huge. His EE gave him a huge damage boost, along with the buffs to Alexa Basket. Is the unit you want on your team. You're going to reach for him more and more often, both in Arena and in Guild Wars, and especially in RTA. And we have the very first floor boss ever, Archdemon Shadow. Now, Archdemon Shadow was really, really good Season 1. Well, not Season 1, but really, really good the first season she came out. And she's the first unit we ever had that could seal, and because of that, she was a bit of a monster. I think she was super, super strong once upon a time, but now we've got units that not only seal, but do it AoE. We've got RGB units that seal, as well as do other things like rolling buffs back. Though she is still a strong unit, her usefulness has fallen down quite a bit. I don't think there's any world where she can swim in a modern meta without a little bit of a nudge. So, Smilegate, it's time to buff Archdemon Shadow, and I can't believe those words just came out of my mouth. Architect Laika. You know what? We're going to bring strays up because it's hard to talk about girl strays and not talk about strays at the same time. So, Architect Laika and strays. Really, really good nuke units. That if you build them fast, your opponent has to figure out what to do with them, or they will kill the tankiest unit on your team. But here's the problem. Unless they're built with insane gear, because of the crazy tankiness and mitigations we have nowadays, they sometimes just don't kill. And God forbid Empyrean Ilynav is in play. They definitely don't kill because they rely on penetration, and she cuts that down. Now, strays did have a use in hunts. He could one-shot hunts, and that was great, but now we have Rift. And if you can build the insane gear level it takes to one-shot with strays, why aren't you just farming Rift instead? Plus, we have background battling, we have quick battling. The need for somebody who can one-shot hunts on insane gear has just gone to the wayside. I've got 2 strays built. My hunt strays is double S. My RTA strays is triple S. I don't use either of them anymore. I know it's maddening to think that a floor boss could fall so far, but although he has more uses than Archdemon Shadow, strays needs a buff. Now, you might say I can use him in niche situations in RTA, but I mean, they are such tiny, tiny niches that I don't think I can even call it a niche situation. That's like a unique, rare situation, and the same with Architect Laika. She's going to be right behind strays. The only reason her and strays are in this order is because, yes, you theoretically still can do hunts with strays. Laika, you really can't do anything with Laika except die. So I don't recommend either of these units. Not in a modern meta that we've got going on right now. Ooh. Astromancer Elena. So Astromancer Elena has the unique passive of being able to turn off counterattacks. It's a passive that only happens if you use her S3 as her first skill. If you have to S1 for whatever reason, maybe you get silenced, maybe you get stunned, that passive goes away and suddenly things can counter. But now we have Mort, who does the exact same thing unconditionally. And now Astromancer Elena is pretty much out of a job. The only thing she has that Mort doesn't have is ignoring, she's element neutral. They do similar damage, but Mort has a bigger kit. Mort's loaded with defense breaks. Mort's loaded with other debuffs, including fear. Nah, I'm sorry, guys. She needs a buff now because she just got outclassed, lost her job. Belian. Belian is an evergreen unit. Belian turns off souls. One of the most powerful aspects of the game, right? But here's the problem. We just came out with a unit that lets you soul burn even if Belian's on the team. Yeah. And that has made Belian largely disappear from defenses and has made her pickability in offenses worse. Belian's also, her big purpose was anti-cleave, and people are cleaving less and less currently because the meta is just not conducive to cleave. So I'm still going to call her a very solid use unit, especially if you can get 3F on this girl. The nice things about Belian is you can build her on counter set. You can build her on injury set. You can build her on protection set. You can build her on speed set. But if you build her on counter set and you have the artifact 3F, you can actually do significant damage with her. So she does still have some solid uses as a DPS, as a 3F DPS, but she's no longer the meta monstrosity she used to be. Still a solid pickup, but not quite where she was. Blood Moon Haste, however, I mean, you heard me talk for a while about how insane APOC Ravi was, how they bent an entire meta around trying to find ways to counter her. Well, then they came out with Blood Moon Haste, who is just better APOC Ravi. So yeah, as crazy as it sounds, he is still, in my opinion, a must-have unit. Brings your entire team back to life, just can pull a reversal, heals, counters, strong damage dealer, can nuke things. If you don't have Blood Moon Haste, pick him up. He is worthy on your account. He is one of the top must-have units. Much like Briar Witch Iseria, who sits right beside him. Now, you can argue this. I think they are both pretty equal. I think pound for pound, you might find more use out of Haste than Briar, but that's just my personal experience. Mileage may vary. And we can soul burn, ignore ER strip, pushes right through most evasion, can do defense breaks, can do good damage, and always gets to take a turn because you can't kill her in one hit. She will proc immortality and then until she takes a turn or it's stripped. So yeah, stops anybody from coming back to life. In a world of Ruels, her stock went straight up because mostly because of Ruel and the importance of Holy Sacrifice now. I think you pick up Iseria. If you don't have her on her account, she is a worthy pickup. Unlike C. Loser Charles. That's right, Closer Charles. Closer Charles. He is right on the edge of needing a buff. The only reason I'm going to put him on his niche use is he does have some PvE uses for clearing Astromancer Hunt at an early stage in the game. He's a nice DPS unit that can advance and push your team. He does give himself built-in stats and built-in evasion when he uses his S3. It's just, he is tough to build as an opener. He's more of an aggro unit, and I think early on you can find some uses for him, building him as a damage dealer and support initiator for your team. And now we've got Commander Pavel. It's going to freak some people out. I'm putting Commander Pavel right down here in the same tier with Closer Charles, but the thing about Commander Pavel is he is a cleave unit in a world where it is incredibly difficult to cleave. Now, if you only care about Arena and maybe some Guild Wars, Pavel's use jumps up. But in RTA, it's harder and harder to use Commander Pavel. So his niche use is he is mostly an Arena Guild War unit. You can try to use him, but he's going to be like a 4th, 5th pick in RTA because of so many things, from Green Rowana to Ilynav to just out-tanking his damage. It's so difficult to get Pavel to play in modern RTA that I think his niche is Guild War and Arena. Conqueror Lilias. Now, a lot of people are confused about Conqueror Lilias, saying it's a dead pick, it's a dead unit. You can't use her anymore because we got C-Fan and Politis. Well, let me tell you, go look up the GG stats on Conqueror Lilias and see how insane her numbers are. People still play her at a very high successful win rate. She is also key to a Wyvern 13 one-shot team that, you know, the build is different. I'm actually going to select Conqueror Lilias as a dupe so that I can build a better Wyvern team. Isn't that crazy? She's not a must-have anymore, but I think it's foolish to say she's anything other than a solid use unit. She dual attacks. She gives Vigor, which can activate units like Inferno Kawazu and also give tankiness and bulk to your team. Random dual attacks, provokes, barriers. She's got it all, guys. All wrapped up in a unit that can be built with insane HP and speed. I think this is a worthwhile unit to have on your account. Dark Corvus defines the niche tier, right? His niche is Guild Wars. That's it. Some people will cap and tell you you can still use them in RTA, and maybe they're thinking of RTA from 2 or 3 seasons ago, but I don't know how, unless your opponent drafts themselves into a corner and Dark Corvus is a must ban, it's almost impossible to use this guy in RTA anymore. But in Guild Wars, he is a machine. So if Guild Wars is important to you, you pick him up. If Guild Wars is not important to you, he's a trash pick and you do not need or want this unit on your team. The man of the hour, Death Dealer Ray. Death Dealer Ray is the best unit in the game. I'm sorry, bar none. Best unit in the game. You want to win an arena? Death Dealer Ray. You want to win in Guild Wars? Death Dealer Ray. You want to ruin people's lives in RTA? First pick Death Dealer Ray and Tywin and enjoy your Master's Frame. It's all you got to do. First 2 picks, Death Dealer Ray, Ambitious Tywin. And then it doesn't even really matter what you pick after that. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it almost feels like that. He is the strongest control unit in the team. There really aren't any counters to him. There's some people's like, oh, well, this unit's a counter. No, those are really soft counters. They help. They're not really counters. Moon Bunny is not really a counter. Dragon King Sharun is the closest thing to a counter we got. DK Sharun and Moon Bunny, the closest thing to a counter we got. But you know what? Ray doesn't have to push those buttons. So, yeah. Pick him up. Strongest unit in the game, bar none. If you want to play RTA or Arena, best unit in the game to have. Desert Jewel Bazaar. You would think in a meta loaded with debuffs that Desert Jewel Bazaar would be amazing, but the problem is his stats are so low that it's hard to give him the ER to survive the debuffs so that he can cleanse and bridge your team and not be so soft that he just dies. Because you've got to get the bulk on him to live, the speed on him to initiate, the ER on him to not be controlled himself, and then he gets to cleanse your whole ass team. So, yeah, I'm not going so far as to saying he needs a buff or anything, but his niche use is there are just better options for cleansing your team. Ilynav, Designer Lilibet, any Soul Weaver. Or if you're going to use this guy, you better have the gear to support it. The high speed, ER, and health and defense gear necessary to make this guy actually perform his job and not just be a dead pick on your team. Speaking of Designer Lilibet, boy did this unit come out of nowhere. She was down here and needs a buff, and you know what? She got a buff, and she's surprisingly good now. I think a lot of her usefulness centers around the fact that she's got a 75% defense break on her S1, and that synergizes so well with the new Flan unit, where you can S1 into a defense break, pulling Flan for that extra hit off of an attack buff from her artifact, and just things die horribly. Plus, she's got the ability to cleanse and CR push up when debuffs are on your team, which gives her great use in a debuff control heavy meta, and she can reset skills. What a great unit. If you don't have Designer Lilibet, worthwhile pickup. I think you'll find it makes a lot of RTA fights so much easier. Dragon Bride Senya would be a must-have unit. She is right beside Ambitious Tywin for must-have units. This is her spot on the tier list in the number 3 spot beside Tywin, except she missed being in the Headhunt by 16 days. If Smilegate delayed Headhunt just 16 days, she'd be pickable, but as it is, sorry guys, you can't get her. DK Sharun. DK Sharun, I think, might be the last balanced unit that we got as a new ML5. Dragon King Sharun's a nice damage dealer, and she is great into sleeps and stuns, which makes her really, really, really good into Ray and Tywin. Now, one would say that that's a niche use, and it is. But it's such a high niche use, some people put her in the solid tier because even though it's a niche versus the 2 strongest units in the game. I still, by definition, I'm going to call her a niche unit. But she's the top of the niche tier. The absolute tip top of the tier. Empyrean Ilynav, one of the strongest units in the game. I would put her right beside here, and I know I said Senya's right here. I still think Senya over Ilynav, but it's close. Some people would say this. I still think this. But regardless, you can't get her from your headhunt, so she goes right down here in the can't get column. But that's where I would have put her. She is stupid strong right now. Oh, Ludwig. Everybody loves cleaving, right? Everybody loves cleavers. Cleavers are the most respectful of your time people out there, right? They either kill you fast or get killed fast, and then they let you get on with your day. They don't hold you hostage for several hours, right? Cleavers are people. Horrible, awful people, but still people. And unfortunately, Cleave is in a little bit of a bad spot right now. Makes his niche use more Guild Wars. Occasional arena, though less and less in a Harsetti meta. It's harder and harder to use Ludwig-style Cleave, so I'm putting him right down here beside Commander Pavel in the niche use. And that niche use is Guild Wars and cleaving in general, both of which are harder to do now, so not quite the powerhouse couple they used to be. Faithless Lidica. This is a tricky one. Okay, hear me out. Faithless Lidica is a niche unit. And that niche is, you need to have crazy gear. And I mean crazy gear. I mean better than my gear kind of gear. I can barely, with my best gear, make a somewhat okay meta Faithless Lidica. And if you've got that level of gear, you don't need a tier list. Savvy? People that are looking at tier lists for advice can't build this unit the way these tiers would require her to be built. And if she's not built with that level of gear, she's not a usable unit. She's not a real unit. You might find some occasional niche PvE use for her, but that's why I've got Faithless Lidica in the niche tier. Fallen Cecilia. She was once upon a time considered, and I'm not kidding, a great disaster of Epic 7. So insanely strong that she made the game not fun to play. But then other units came out that just did what she did better, right? She's a mitigation knight, and then we got better mitigation knights. She is a damage, she could be built as a damage dealer, but we got better damage dealer. She's a barrier spammer, but we got better barrier spammer knights now. She could provoke, but what good is a single target provoke when you can have an AoE stun plus a single target provoke? So she just got power crept. And a lot of what she got power crept by was 3 and 4 star units. We got Arrowell. We got Crimson Armin. We got a lot of units that just power crept her out of the meta. So, I hate to say it, but she needs a buff and she doesn't. She needs a buff to be meta again, but do we really want to buff the strongest, barrier knight in the game once upon a time and have to live through that again? I sure don't. I think buffing her will make the game less fun, but I think she really needs a kit rework. She needs a new job. Like what they did to LRK, they should have done to her. If they gave her Last Rider Krau's buff change, then she would be viable without upsetting the meta. I don't think she needs a buff to make her stronger. I think she needs a buff to make her different, to give her a job, because right now, it's not that she's bad. It's just that she's unemployed, right? She's good at her job. There's just lots of other people that are also good at her job that are used instead of her. So she is sitting in the unemployment line looking for a job. So she needs a new skill set. She needs something new about her kit to give her a job in this game. That's her only issue. She is still a solid unit. If you have one, build her. Especially if you're relatively new in the game, she's a very, very good PvP knight until you get the other options that are just better. Harsetti, if you don't think this unit is broken, top of the meta, you've been living under a rock. I think she would arguably... I'm not sure if I would put her ahead of Tywin yet, but I think I would put her ahead of Senya and Ilynav. I think this is how I would line it up. I really do. But it doesn't matter, because like Ilynav, like Senya, Harsetti is not in the headhunt, so you cannot get her. So down here in the can't get pool. And you know what? Lua is not even out yet. I mean, God, look at this unit. You just get her. I'm sorry. She's right here. She's right here. She's right here. I don't even have to look at her kit to know she's right here. But she's not in the pool. She's not even in the game yet. So we'll put her down there. Judge Kisei. So this is a weird one for me, right? Judge Kisei is a unit that has gotten a lot of buffs. And I just can't quite get her to work. But evidently, I'm just not doing something right. Because I look at her GG statistics, and she's got an incredibly high success rate. So maybe it's my gear, maybe it's my teams, maybe it's my placement. But I've got to put her in solid use because numbers don't lie. And the numbers say that this unit is a powerhouse that usually wins fights when she's drafted. So though I can't explain a thing, I've got to acknowledge a thing, and I'm putting her in the solid use tier because, like I said, numbers don't lie. Last Rider Krau. Last Rider Krau got a buff that actually took him from right down here beside FCC and brought him up. And his buff is what FCC should have gotten. It's what the kind of thing they need to do to FCC. They said, hey, you've kind of lost your job as just being a damage mitigation knight to all of the insane damage mitigation knights that are out right now. So maybe we look at doing something other than just having you power creep other damage mitigation. So they gave him skill reset. And you know what? It's brought him back up into the limelight. He is a good option now that lets you do things. It gives his kit enough diversity that he can be used again, especially in Arena and a little bit in RTA. I think you'll find Last Rider Krau is a good pickup for your team. Oh, Lionheart Cermia. My girl, what did they do to you? She got a buff that made her so insanely toxic, and now, although on counters she can constantly keep cycling her skill, there are things that turn off counters now, multiple things between this and Krau, or this and Mort, that turn off counters, and her damage relies a lot on penetration, and we're in a world of Ilynav, and we got anti-counter buffs. It's just harder and harder to use her. When she's in her niche, she crushes. But it's harder and harder to find that niche, so that's where she is. We're sliding her down into the niche picks. I think... yeah, right here beside Ludwig. That's a good spot for her. Now, I know I'm going to get some pushback on this. I know I'm going to get some pushback on Little Queen Charlotte. Little Queen Charlotte obliterates dark units and gives mitigation and self-CR pushes. But Savior Auden also obliterates dark units and CR pushes and does a clapback when she evades. She doesn't have the mitigation, but she's got the evasion. The only thing that... oh, she doesn't have the mitigation, but she has the evasion for herself, and she gives a gold shield for the entire team, which is 100% mitigation instead of just general mitigation. She would be better than Little Queen Charlotte in every way, except Little Queen Charlotte does do Extinction, which makes her really, really, really nice into Arby, but that's about it. Really nice into Arby, really nice into Ray if you can get her through and not have her just be asleep the whole time. She can blow things up and you don't have to worry about Ooal or another Soul Weaver, Haste, bringing things back to life, but it's not enough. It's not enough where you'll reach for her often enough over Little Queen Charlotte. So I think she needs a buff, guys. I don't think she needs a buff because she's weak. I think she needs a buff because there is a free 3-star unit that's just does damn near the exact same role. So similar that there's only little teeny tiny differences between what you can do with LQC and what you can do with Savior Auden. And that bothers me. That bothers me. I don't think a 5-star ML should be this close to a 3-star unit. Sorry. My opinion. Buff this unit. Lone Crescent Bellona. Her RTA uses have fallen off quite a bit, but she still is one of the few ML5s that has a strong PvE-centric usage, right? She's really, really good in Nightmare raids. She's great in clearing content. She is meta on some Abyss floors. If you don't much care for RTA, but are looking for a strong unit to use in the occasional Guild War fight, and Abyss floor, and in clearing content, and an autoing Nightmare raid, this is a good pickup for you. So this is one that I would recommend for the newer players who are, you know, looking for something that's not RTA centric. Because remember, ML5 units are PvP units for the most part. Whether that's Guild Wars Arena or RTA, mostly it's RTA, but it's going to be hard to say, hey, show me just the PvE units. Most of them that have PvE usages are, it's just a side effect of their kit. Strays was used for a lot of PvE because he can one-shot things, but that wasn't his, he was designed to be a PvP character. Same with Bellona. She was designed to murder Landy, but her special skills let her work in other areas as well. Maid Chloe, much like Lone Crescent Bellona, Maid Chloe has some really good PvE uses. Any unit that can cleanse your entire team, give everybody an attack buff, stun on her S1 at a 40% success rate, bring your entire team back to life, or give them a buff so they can bring themselves back to life when they need it, and passively heals. How can you say this is a bad unit? But because of Iseria, because of the extinction on Specimen Says and units like LQC, because of the insane strength of Ooal now, her use in RTA, Arena, and Guild Wars has fallen almost to nothing. It almost has made her a PvE only unit. I'm going to sit her down here in niche because even though she's insanely powerful, I think she's mostly going to be for newer players climbing Abyss. She's going to be for people wanting to auto Nightmare Raid content and very, very, very rare niche picks inside of RTA until something happens to make her a little bit better. Martial Artist Ken. This guy was once a great answer. His best use right now is killing Abyssal Yuffines. But Abyssal Yuffine is being played less and less often, meaning ML Ken is being used less and less often. And also now that Mort's out, I mean, Ken's entire kit hinges on him counterattacking, and having multiple units now that turn off counterattack make him harder to play. So much like Lionheart Cermia, he sits down here in the niche tier. And his niche is when people can AoE crit and you don't have to worry about anti-counter. Suddenly he's a very viable pick. But that niche is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Mediator Coeric. Once a top unit. Once a top 3 unit. Once arguably the #1 unit right up here with Conqueror Lilias. Once this viewed as one of the best units of the game. A candy-eating vampire stole so much of his thunder. Laia is just better in most situations than Mediator Coeric, but Mediator Coeric does things that Laia doesn't. Especially on Laia's artifact, you can put Mediator Coeric in a lot of situations that Laia doesn't work out. I still think he is a very, very solid pick unit. I think you want to have a Mediator Coeric on your team. One of the nice things about him, he's a cleanser that can be built bruiser. You can build him with some damage. You can actually have him be an effective part of the damage of your team. He strips, he attack breaks, he CR pushes, he gives immunity, he attack buffs. The guy is a Soul Weaver kit built in a warrior body with warrior artifacts. Fantastic unit to have on your team. You should pick one up. Oh my god, can you imagine a world where Landy is not top tier? Well, I can because we're living in it now. Landy is right here beside Abyssal Yuffine. She used to be the meta. She used to be this unit has ended the game. We can't play because of this unit now. This is the unit I remind people. It's like, remember what you were saying about this unit last year? It's the same thing you're saying about whatever unit they're complaining about this year. We've adapted. We have come up with answers. The game has come out with answers. There are now so many things that counter the way Navy Captain Landy works that she's harder and harder to play. Now, any of you that watched Worlds, any of you that have played RTA know that Landy can still win fights. Landy also is one of the few RTA units that has PvE usages. You'll find uses for her not only in Guild Wars, but in Nightmare Raid, in some Abyss content, in just clearing stages in general. She can solo on full auto do the entire Automaton Tower. Anyway, solid pickup. I would say she's close to the front of the solid tier, but I can't put her into the must-haves anymore because there's so many counters to her right now. Ooh, New Moon Luna. Wouldn't it be great to headhunt New Moon Luna? New Moon Luna is probably chilling out right around here. Yeah, easily, right? Except you can't pick her because she's not in the headhunt. So we'll put her down here. Better than Ainz, better than her, better than her. I still think better than Harsetti. I'm going to sit her right here beside Lua. Depending on how you play, you might be back and forth on this. But an AoE seal, and she's immune to the first debuff? Are you kidding me? Operator Cigarette, poster child for needs a buff. Operator Cigarette was one of the first things developed to stop the great disaster that was fallen Cecilia. Remember how she was the great disaster? Because her barriers made the game damn near unplayable, so they came out with a unit that slaughters people who put up barriers. Well, except the barriers now are so strong and her damage is so weak that she can't kill things with barriers anymore. And she's not fast enough and strong enough. She's got no built-in survivability. You can try to put Guiding Light on her, but then she's not going to kill anything. Cigarette desperately needs a change. She is the weakest 5-star in the game. There are 3-star ML units that do more things than Cigarette does right now. You only pick her because you think with her being this bad, there's no way Smilegate doesn't buff her next. Oh my goodness, speaking of the unit that we get a skin for this RTA season, it's right, Pirate Captain Flan. We get a skin if you end Masters or higher for Pirate Captain Flan, and I can't wait to see what that looks like, because Flan aesthetically is one of my favorite units in the game. Pirate Captain Flan had a shot at being a must-have. With the way her buffs looked on the balance patch, I think she would have been right here, potentially ahead of Death Dealer Ray. That's how good I think her buffs were. But a handful of people complained that this somehow made Flan worse. I'm not even going to get into how bad of a take I thought that was, but anyway, they yapped loud enough that Smilegate went ahead and acquiesced and said, okay, we're not going to do the buffs. We're going to leave Flan the way she is. And now the way she is all the way down here in the desperately needs a buff category because she is not really playable in this meta. Which is crazy, right? You would think a control unit that spams all of these control things like Flan does would be playable in this meta, but she's really just not. I have not seen her used in any appreciable, effective way in Guild Wars, Arena, and RTA. I've only seen her used in the most cheerleader win more kind of situation where she didn't really need to be on the team, that the rest of the team just kind of carried. The niche fights where she was the reason the fight was won are so few and far between as to be counted on one hand per season with fingers left over. I'm sorry, guys. Please, 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 Smilegate, consider putting the buffs back or coming up with new buffs for Flan, because it's terrible that we're competing for a skin for a unit that nobody puts anywhere other than in their lobby. Oh my god, how the mighty have fallen. Our Lord and Savior Rylet. Remnant Violet. Remnant Violet's one of the reasons that I did so well in RTA one season. But so many things counter his kit that he actually kind of needs a buff. And before any of you say, give him 100% evasion like Flan, do we really need another 100% evasion unit? I don't think so. Do you really want to fight Flan and this guy? Are you crazy? No, find a way to buff him and make him good, but please don't make it be 100% evasion. I just don't think we need more of that. But yeah, Rylet is hard to play right now. You can still kind of use him like APOC Ravi in the sense that the time is running out. You are trying to figure out what that last unit you pick is going to be, and you can go ahead and slam Rylet, but just be aware of all of the counters he has and make sure when you slam him, none of those counters are on the enemy side. Requiem Rowana. She throws a rose at you and calls you darling. How do you not want that on your account, right? Requiem Rowana, absolutely gorgeous unit, and really good too. She's one of the few cleave units that survived the culling of cleave lately because she works as an aggro unit. She can reset skills, she's loaded with defense breaks, and you build her with a ton of attack, and she can just drop some damage. So I really like Requiem Rowana. I think she's a solid pick for just about any play style. Go ahead and have her on your team. Ooal of Light got a buff that has made her damn near unkillable. She is an insanely good unit right now. If you're running defense in Arena, she's on it. Like, go look at Arena defense right now. She's probably on 7 out of 10 teams that you see, maybe even more. It's going up every day. The unkillable Ooal of Light is a solid unit just because of her ability to not die and bring somebody else back who died. It makes stalling out your enemy and breaking it up even worse. So, yeah. Pick her up if you don't have her. She's crazy right now. If you haven't gotten a chance to play her, go enjoy it. Sage Ball and Cezanne. Sage Ball's primary job is stopping cleave. And nobody really cleaves anymore. So there's not a lot of use for Sage Ball anymore. He can control with debuffs, but so can a lot of units. So he's not a bad pickup, but his niche is small, so he's on the far right side of the niche picks. Sea Phantom Politis. This is the unit that everybody says replaced what used to be the best unit in the game, so surprise, she's one of the top 3 units in the game. Sea Phantom Poly gives rage, which lets Janua go insane, and just lets all your other units be stronger in general. She dual attacks with the highest attack unit, giving her really good PvE uses, as well as RTA uses, as well as Guild War uses. She has resource reduction, which is crazy powerful in today's meta, especially with a lot of focus and fighting spirit-driven units. She can strip, and unlike Conqueror Lilias, she has access to ranger artifacts, meaning she can wear the stealth artifact Guiding Light and you can't hit her. Or she can wear Spatiotemporal Fan and then you can make somebody else stealthed. Or she can put her on Misconfile and she can defense break. Or you can put her on Elysiac Candle and she can defense break that way as well. So you never really know what artifact she's on, which makes her even harder to play against because you don't know, am I going to be able to hit this unit, or is she going to make somebody else unhittable, or is she going to be a defense breaker that dual attacks with the highest attack unit and then I just die? So yeah, crazy, solid, strong unit in every aspect of the game. If you don't play RTA at all, she moves to the front. If you have designs in any way, shape, or form of RTA, up to and including just playing enough to get your skin, these 2 are still in front of her, but these 3 are the powerhouses. If I made a whole ass new tier, I would put just these 3 in it. So, there you go. Silverblade Aramentha, our favorite red-headed pirate that's not named Flan. Well, I guess Flan isn't a redhead now, is she? Can't be perfect. Silverblade Aramentha got the buff she so desperately needed, and if you haven't fought against her yet, you're in for a treat. Control, bombs, effectiveness scaling at a ratio of 900%. What that means is if you have 100 effectiveness on this unit, it adds 900 attack to your build. If you've got a 300 effectiveness Silverblade, you're adding 2,700 attack to your existing attack. You go from a 3,000 attack to a 5,700 attack. And burns do damage based on 60% of your attack. So if you've got a 5,700 attack, if you say you got a 5,000 attack after you put the effectiveness boost in there, you're at 5,000 attack. Those burns are going to do 3,000 damage per burn. And God forbid you detonate them. Oh my God. Plus she stuns. Isn't that fun? She stuns. She stuns in a world of Specimen Says is back out off the leash. Yeah, this is a unit that you want to have. She is super strong. We'll sit her down right here beside Arbiter Vildred because she is worth the pickup. If you don't have her, go ahead and get her. Just pick her in a few drafts, pick her in some Guild Wars, and just watch how much fun it is to play this unit. Solitaria of the Snow. Solitaria, one of the best uses for Solitaria right now is dealing with Fireflan, blowing up Fireflan, and also her control and her synergy with Death Dealer Ray. Her ability to attack and then do an AoE attack after that lets her spam the Venoms off of Death Dealer Ray. Her ability to attack and then attack again can help her chip away at Flan, as well as her passive. But those are kind of niche uses. They're insanely strong niche uses and worthy of being at the front of the niche, but I still can't deny that they are just niche uses. She's not just a unit that you slam in your first 3 picks. She's a unit that you slam as a reaction to something your opponent has done. And that, by nature, makes her a niche pick, though at the very high end. So again, pointing out, doesn't mean she's bad, just means she is task specific. Ooh, Specimen Says. Specimen Says is a monster now. He got an EE that lets him not only do his giga damage against stunned units, but also against slept units. Who on this list can stun and sleep people? Oh yeah, the top 2 units on this list sleep and stun people, making Specimen Says a monster. I can't even tell you guys. Plus Extinction. Extinction in a world where Ruel's a monster. So, if he's got Extinction, and now it works on Sleep and Stun, and it does Extinction, so you have to worry about Haste or Ruel, what a great unit. Try him out. Try him out, guys. He's not hard to build. That's one of the best things about him. He is quite easy to build. He is low on the gear necessity, and he does crazy things now. The Queen of PvE. My, how the mighty have fallen. She was not only the best unit for PvE, but she was also really, really good. This might be the first season that she's not meta for RTA. Her EE we thought would help make her more useful in RTA, but she still just doesn't quite have the chops with so much AoE spamming and so much pop damage, and units like Flan sure as hell didn't help. It's made her use be pretty much strictly PvE. She doesn't really have Guild War, Arena, or RTA use anymore, except potentially as a very last pick. And if she's only a very last pick unit or a PvE unit, I'm sorry, but that's niche as hell. So, Tenebria haters, don't get mad at me. She's just not what she used to be. And maybe that'll change. Spirit Eye Celine is really only a Guild War unit or a very specific situational last pick in RTA to deal with certain situations. She doesn't quite have the chops, I think, to be a standalone solid unit, so we'll slap her right down here beside Sage Ball as a niche unit. Sylvan Sage Vivian. Currently, Sylvan Sage Vivian is in the Galaxy shop. I caution you against getting her until you have seen if you can build her. She runs on a lifesteal set. That means all of your stats for this unit come from the gear substats, because lifesteal does not give you any stats, right? Destruction gives you 60% crit damage. Speed set gives you 25% speed. Hit set, HP set, defense set, all these sets give you stats. Lifesteal set gives you no stats, and she is a very stat-hungry unit. She wants attack, she wants HP, she wants defense, she wants crit chance, she wants everything except for like effectiveness and ER. And that's a tall order for this unit, so make sure you can build her before you select her. If you can build her, she's great. She is a solid use unit. Yeah, let's put her like right here beside Bellona. She's a solid use unit if you can build her. But she takes some crazy gear to build, so make sure you can build her before you select this unit. Nothing worse than spending your selector on a unit and then just finding out you can't build her. Ugh. Ooh. The most impactful unit of 2020, Top Model Lilica. If you didn't have this unit, you didn't get to play RTA. But that was 2020. That was almost 5 years ago. Can you believe it? This pandemic monstrosity that ran over everybody now has a very, very niche use. And the niche use is being slightly better Closer Charles with Extinction. She, like Closer Charles, can do pretty good damage, can push your team up. Like Closer Charles, she's fast, but not quite fast enough. She's got Extinction, but she's got no built-in survivability like Charles has. The biggest roadblock to Top Model Lilica is, much like Faithless Lidica, if you have the gear to build her, you don't need to look at a tier list. If you're looking at a tier list for advice, trust me when I say you don't have the gear to build this unit, unless maybe you just like were gifted a legend account but are still learning to play. Top Model Lilica is not an easy unit to build. You either build her fast enough to be an initiator, and even then there's probably better initiators that you could build, or you build her with enough damage to kill things, in which case she's not very fast and just dies herself. Hard unit to play. Twisted Eidolon Charon. One of my favorite units to play in Arena. Anybody that's caught my streams past few months has watched me just having a blast with Twisted Eidolon Charon, and now everything has got so much effectiveness. Thanks, Harsetti. Thanks for that. It's just damn near impossible to use him anymore. So they gave him a buff to try to make him usable in RTA. and I've just not seen it. Maybe some of you guys will disagree. Maybe some of you guys have seen him being used successfully. He does do a lot more damage now. I really think he needs some form of built-in immortality. I'm not saying like a BBK passive, but maybe like a Briar passive, something to let him stick around long to do his things. Because as it is, I've just not seen him do anything but die. And the times that he wins, I'm not sure he's the reason for that team winning. But if you're seeing him used in an effective way and he's your husbando, you pick who you want to pick. This is just my take, and my take is he needs yet another buff. He doesn't really need a buff, right? We've kind of hit the point where we just say he needs a redesign. He needs a rework. He needs something that's going to make him effective, because what they're trying to do with him isn't tenable in a modern meta. All right, we are down to the last two. Urban Shadow Shoe. Because of the crazy injury that Ray can lay down, and especially units like Alencia and people, injury is being more and more of a thing. Anybody who can fire a giant rat gun and blow things up that have injury on them, solid unit. But she does kind of need to be a part of that team, right? She needs to have other units that can do injury. Now, she can do it herself and be self-sustaining. She can injure something enough and then blow it up. It makes her a solid standalone unit, not top of the meta, but very, very usable. We'll stick her right here between Rowana and Bellona. Man, I wish I was between Rowana and Bellona. Okay, so last unit is Zeo. Now, a lot of people say Zeo has lost his way. A lot of people say that, with Harsetti out there, he is a good counter to her, but other than that, he's a cleave unit and cleave's dead. Nah, fam. Zeo is still a top tier unit. You want to kill Harsetti's in arena, you need Zeo. You want to be able to do easy style cleaves in RTA, you need Zeo. You can build this guy slow on damage. You can build him fast on effectiveness. You can build him fast on damage. You can build him with lifesteal. There's a lot of different ways to build Zeo. He's a mage, can hold book. Strong unit, somebody that you want on your team. So there you go. This is my tier list. I hope you guys like it. I'm pretty pleased with it. And if you want to know who should you pick, if I don't know anything about your account, it's hard for me to advise on who to pick. And this is not an invitation for you to screenshot all 500 of your units and then ask me who to pick. This is just me saying, without knowing anything about your account, all things being equal for generic use in all aspects of this game, including RTA, start from the top and move left to right, top to bottom until you hit a unit you don't have, and then pick that unit. Savvy? If you've got all of the top 2 rows and nobody in the bottom row, you pick Dragon King Sharun. If you have everybody in the top row except for Haste, you pick Haste. That's my advice. Left to right, top to bottom. I hope this list helps you guys out. If you have any comments, drop them in the comment section. Let me know who you're picking. Let me know who you plan to pick. The last little bit of advice I've got for you is you've got time. You've got time to see how Lua is going to impact the meta. You've got time to see who the next ML5 is after Lua and how she'll impact the meta. And maybe that changes your decision. Maybe you find out that ML Lua or the next unit, say it's ML Huayang, maybe you find that those units are insanely hard countered by Dark Corvus. Maybe you find out in that period of time, we will in the time this headhunt lasts, we'll go over another balance patch. And in that balance patch, maybe Operator Sigrid gets a buff that somehow lets her murder Death Dealer Ray every single time. 100% silver bullet level murder him and deals with maybe some other stuff too. Maybe there's things that are going to change your pick. So just because you get your pick early, if you want to play it smart, ride it out a little bit. See how the meta shapes up. See what the new units bring. See how things change and see if that tempers your decision on who you pick. But if you're already married to it, then I don't even know why you're watching this video. If you're like, it's time, I'm getting my friggin' Lionheart Cermia so I can enjoy that skin in my lobby, well then you do you and you pick your favorite unit. I hope this helps you guys out. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and you guys have a great rest of your week. Take care, Epic 7.